On today's episode, we'll be showcasing something you don't often see on this channel, the LANCER TACTICAL AEG PPK20. When Lancer reached out to me and asked if I'd like to review their PPK20, I said sure. Even though I'd never purchased an AEG on my own, there's people that like them and they do have a respectable place in the airsoft field. Specifically, AEGs lack a cooldown period, function really well in the cold, and are notoriously more accurate than any other replicas on the market. That's including your GBBs and your bolt-action snipers. They're also notoriously popular amongst beginners, and something I respect highly about Lancer Tactical is they make extremely high quality AEGs for a much cheaper price range. And I am all for a company that wants to make getting into airsoft easier for every single player. Now, it's unboxing time for the Lancer Tactical Gen 3 PPK20. Now, I will say for the price of Lancer Tactical's AEGs, they do not skimp on any categories. First of all, you're presented with a 1-year warranty. You have the PPK20. Stunning. The mag. Or should I say mags, because Lancer Tactical absolutely came in clutch and kitted me out with an entire loadout for this thing, so thank you. The first, and arguably one of the only times that the BBs that are given to you inside of the box are ever going to be used, because Lancer Tactical makes quality BBs. Most of the time, if there's BBs in a box, throw them out, but with Lancer Tacticals, actually, these are good BBs, so we're going to use these, along with all of the other ammunition that Lancer Tactical provided us, so they really took care of me here. I really appreciate it. Go shoot them a follow, show some support, because they're helping the channel grow a lot and allowing me to create more content for you guys. Up in the right corner, you have a speed loader, which is always welcomed. You can never have too many of these because sometimes they get lost, sometimes I crush and break them, and again, speed loaders, we need them. A cleaning and unjamming rod. Let me show you its features. The Lancer Tactical PPK20 AEG comes in black, tan, or a gray variant. Almost entirely constructed of polymer with a 95 round mid-cap mag. And the overall weight comes in at just about 4.2 pounds. Another cool feature of the PPK20 is it's entirely wired to Dean's connector. Its primary source of nutrition is an 11.1 LiPo battery, which does not come included, so keep in mind, if you don't have one, you'll have to purchase that one yourself. Internally, it's featuring a Tokyo Marui Spec V3 gearbox and a programmable ETU MOSFET system. It is not by any means a hard kit to handle. It has a couple different adjustments I'd like to go over. First of all, the stock is adjustable lengthwise, and after testing, it's got 9 different positions that you can place it in depending on your length. The butt pad is made of a high quality firm rubber that does add a decent bit of grip to the shoulder. There's a QD point on the left side, but none on the right, and the big button on the top of it allows you to fold the stock over. Hold the button to collapse it, hold the button to open it back up. As we move just to the front of the stock, we are presented with the fire selector switch. The first position is safe, then you have semi, and then you have auto. It is ambidextrous and kind of reminiscent of an AK on the far side, but with the functionality of an AR. And if you're wondering, no, you can't move this guy on its own, you have to use the little lever. But it is ambidextrous, so that's a plus. The grip is minorly grippy. It does come with some grips on it, but you might want to put a wrap on that or something if you're going to be using this barehanded. In gloves, I'm sure it will be fine. The trigger, when put into semi or full auto, is a decently lengthy trigger pull. Just ahead of that, you find your magazine release, which is just a single paddle. And something that I did find that was really cool is you can AK reload it if you choose to. That's awesome. Now, something that I was worried about originally is the dust cover. I wondered that since there's a ton of rail space up on the top, if there was going to be a problem with keeping a zero when you put your sights on. However, the dust cover is totally solid. It is not like your standard AK dust cover where it doesn't lock into place. It is permanently held in place via this pin right up in the front. That rail does extend further down the grip, alongside some M-lock on the right and left sides. And then you have your iron sights on the back and on the front. The front iron sights are elevation adjustable with a small tool up in the front. And then the rear sights are a little funky and hard to understand how they operate, but all you have to do is press this guy down and twist it. Press this guy down and twist it. And it comes with 6 different adjustments. We'll keep it at 1 for now. Where some will come with a federally mandated orange tip, it is removable if legal in your state or your country, and it does cover a 14mm counterclockwise thread. The dust cover is pretty simple to remove actually. In order to get the battery installed, all you're going to do is pry this guy up, pull the pin out, and then the entire dust cover will slide back and off, and you can see the housing where you plug in your battery. Now, something I really enjoy, when you plug in the PPK20 to its battery, it will signify that it's getting juice just by a little bit of a beep. And now you know she got power. Now for the remainder of this test, we're going to be using 0.20 gram BBs just because they're the cheapest and easiest for me to burn through. And something cool that I want to mention about the mags is, if you notice, when you do enter it into the replica, the follower pops out, so it feeds every single last BB. You don't waste any, or at least you should waste less. Now before we get our first mag inserted, I want to take a look at the hop up. You can adjust it from the inside of the chamber. It's super easy to access without taking down the upper, which is super nice. We're just going to load a mag on in, and there's a couple things that I'm looking for. Does it fire the BBs every single shot? Also, I'm a gas blowback guy, so I'm looking for sound. How does it sound? Does it sound like a really, really whiny gearbox, or does it sound not so whiny and a little bit more poppy with a little more pep to its step? Lastly, what kind of fire rate are we dealing with? And then I also want to test out some of the programmable options if I can figure that out. So we'll throw this guy into semi, and we should be good to fire. We are. It's a little springy on the inside. You can kind of hear it. You can repetitively fire off shots, even though the trigger pull is relatively long. Yeah, if you find that sweet spot, it really just takes a little while to figure out that sweet spot. But the motor definitely functions quick enough to allow me to repetitively fire off shots. It's a little bit more whiny than one of the previous AEGs that I reviewed from Lancer Tactical a couple months ago. But you know I genuinely prefer an SMG, so this is much cooler. Let's try out the full auto mode. I think we're already out of rounds. Yeah, we are. All right, let's get another one. AK reload. That is just endless ammunition. Jesus. I don't know how to program these things very well, so we're going to give it a shot here. From my understanding, you put it into semi to adjust the semi mode. And what this is going to do is decide whether the gun is in semi or in binary. Now, binary means that instead of shooting every time you pull the trigger, it shoots every time you pull the trigger and release the trigger. I think we pull the trigger, it should discharge, and then it should beep. Now, if you heard that, all we're going to do is release. Now hold it again. It should beep once and then beep twice. Doo-doo. Listen. Now the once is when the trigger is going to be pulled in standard semi. The twice is when it's going to be pulled in binary. And I'm just going to hold it until we hear the binary, the doo-doo. Release, pull it again. It should beep once, and that means it's programmed in a binary. Now if I put a mag in, a full mag, and we're in semi, it should fire every time I pull the trigger and then when I release the trigger to increase fire mode. Let's see how it goes. Oh, it does. It worked. Hold on. Whoa. That's semi. It's not in full auto. We're never taking it out of binary mode. It's going to stay like that. It is absolutely going to stay like that. Let's check out the full auto mode. So next I want to edit the full auto mode. And if I'm not mistaken, the full auto mode is going to allow us to put this into 3-round burst opposed to just standard full auto. So I have to be careful with this. We're going to pull the trigger down, wait till it beeps, and release at the 2 beep. And then grab it at the 2. And then the full auto should be in 3-round bursts. Check this out. That's crazy. I love burst. I think burst fire is definitely one of my favorites. I'm new to the binary mode because a lot of gas blowbacks don't have that. But burst has always been something that I love, 2 or 3 rounds. So we reset the PPK20 from Lancer Tactical back into all of its standard modes. We're going to start it off in semi, and we have our Ace Tech chronograph set to 0.2 gram BBs, which is what we're using. We're going to check out the FPS best of 10 rounds, and then the rounds per second. Best of 10 rounds, let's see how we do. Should be set in semi, ready to go. 1, 332, 337, 333, 331, 335, 336, 337, 340, 334, 335, 336, and 335. So our consistency isn't too bad, especially being that it's an AEG. I mean, it should be more consistent than a GBB for sure. We got 332, 333. A majority of them were within like a 2 to 3 FPS increment, with a couple jumps up to 337. But that's some pretty solid consistency, honestly. Now let's check out the RPS. We're going to totally reset it. Throw this guy into full auto mode. And we'll test it out. Give it a little burst. I gotta be doing something wrong. That was more than a second. I want to know why my RPS just consistently goes up, 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 and it never stops going up. I'm not sure. It's got a rate of fire fast. Now, before we share our final thoughts, there's two things I want to do. I want to let you know that I guess the cops know Lancer Tactical released a new beastly SMG. I'll come back when they stop. Okay, anyways, as I was saying, there's also 5 pre-cocking settings, and what that does is it adjusts, from my understanding, how far the piston presets itself before firing, which can shorten the length of your trigger pull. So that's pretty cool. I'll leave a little key. I'm also going to post it on Instagram as well. All the settings and adjustments that you need for this guy, just to make your life a little bit easier, and how to enter all the programming modes. I think it'd be fun, before we share some final thoughts, to show you some of the fun reloads you could do. And the reason that I love 9mm AK style replicas so much is because of all of those reload options. Like, not only do you have the standard reload, but you also could do the mag swap, the good old AK reload, the karate chop. If you have long fingers, you could do the flick. I don't know. Just so fun to reload. Now, it's not an airsoft replica if it doesn't come with a list of pros and cons. So I want to go over a couple things that I like and dislike. We'll start with the pros, since I'm a positive guy. First of all, the mags, they're super light, they're mid-cap, but they feel like high-cap, because they have an unbelievable amount of capacity for such a small little platform. Again, like I've said 100 times, when I play with gas blowbacks, sometimes we're limited to the 25, 30, 40, maybe even 50 round mark. These guys hold 95 rounds, and they're unbelievably light. Like, they weigh nothing. These weigh like less than a TV remote, which is huge. So you can carry a ton of these on your person. They're not full-sized AK replica mags, so you could fit a ton of these on your pouches, which is super cool. The entire replica itself, I already know that I'm a fan of it. I love the 9mm AK, since there's, from my understanding, no real steel counterpart to this guy. We're basing this entirely off the airsoft model, and I really do enjoy it. I think it's awesome. I think it's ergonomical. I think it's fun. I think the mags are great. I think the functioning of the AR, but still feeling like an AK and having the charging handle on the one side, is great. I do love the integral or solid dust cover that allows you to mount sights up here and not have to worry about zeroing optics. I also want to say props to Lancer Tactical. This thing is an absolute brick. There is, besides the stock, which is already minimal, there is no wiggling in the stock, no wiggle in the grip, the mag well, the handguard. It is a brick. The mags are a little wobbly, but again, they don't make a whole lot of noise because it's plastic on plastic, and they don't move up and down at all. Plus, you're not worrying about a gas seal, so as long as they feed BBs into the tube, which they do every time, that's great. And they also feed upwards of almost every last BB with that little follower, which is cool too. And it's not sticking out enough to where it'd get damaged inside and out of the mag well, or inside and out of your pouches. Now another pro is the fact that out of the box, not only is it affordable, but it comes programmable, and you have a total of 4 different fire modes, whether it be semi, binary, full auto, or burst, and then the 5 precocking settings, which can increase your trigger speed and your trigger pull or your fire rate on semi so much faster, or even your full auto rate so much faster, because again, that piston travels less of a distance, which is really, really cool. When it comes to cons, my first con for you is the battery compartment. Now, again, I'm sure you can find the right batteries for it, but the battery compartment is super small. And this is already a relatively small stick style battery as is, and I could barely fit it in here. It took a little bit of fussing, and I kind of had to force this guy closed. This is the smallest battery I had. I'm sure you can get smaller LiPos, but yeah, it is a small battery compartment because the upper area inside the dust cover, it wedges in on itself, so there's not as much room as it looks like there is. And in order to make life a little bit easier, I just went up and taped up the Dean's connector and the charging port to the far side, because that's the side that I had to install it on in order to get it to fit, and I just figured it was easier than fussing with all of the wires. Instead, now all I have to do is fuss with this one. The other con that I did want to mention, that I noticed at least, when it comes to AEGs, I always look for sound, because higher end AEGs whine less with the motors from what I've heard, at least, you know, being new to them. And the AEG that I got from Lancer Tactical last time, the sound was a little bit more poppy, a little less whiny. With this guy, it is a little bit more whiny. When you adjust the precocking to a shorter or less of a piston travel, the precocking does help that a little bit, but you can still hear the whining a little bit. You can hear a little bit of springing in the inside of the gearbox. But overall, that's not too much of an issue. It still functions phenomenally. And again, it's a Tokyo Marui gearbox, so I think that also takes a ton of different upgrades if you wanted to. Alrighty, I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. When it comes to AEGs, Lancer Tactical is very good at making usable and cheap replicas straight out of the box. There is simply no hiding the fact that these are high-quality AEGs, and they cost half the price of some other AEGs out there on the market, plus they're totally programmable and completely customizable. So whether you're someone in airsoft, someone looking to get into airsoft, someone who just likes AEGs as a whole, or is looking for something cool to add to their collection, or you're just totally fond of AKs like me, you may want to give the Lancer Tactical PPK20 a look, because it's definitely a fun little beast to play around with.